Greetings and salutations, my fellow Americans. I am H.J. Armstrong, a former agent with the Men in Black and an independent researcher. Recently, a video generated by artificial intelligence featured President Donald Trump and promised that medbeds were just around the corner, offering miracle cures to all. Trump himself, or one of his handlers, posted this video to his Twitter account and then deleted it. As someone in the know, I thought that this was a perfect opportunity to weigh in and try to provide some clarity. The first thing that we need to address is the issue of whether or not this video was conveying fake news. The answer is not as straightforward as it could be, as medbeds are indeed real. However, this is a highly advanced and tightly guarded alien technology. Trump could not possibly release this technology to the general public, as he himself does not have access to it. Given the degree of his meddling in the secret space program, there is a 99% chance that he knows about medbeds. As a fan of political theater, he thought that he could simply make a proclamation and shame the Federation into releasing the technology. Sadly, the cold hard reality is that humanity is a much smaller player on the intergalactic stage than Star Trek represents it. The Star Trek shows and movies present humans as more central in order to generate interest and perform soft disclosure. The reality is that outside of humans who serve in Starfleet, few native sons and daughters of the pale blue marble have ever laid in a medbed. The only way for anyone else to wind up in a medbed is if they are injured in such a manner that Starfleet deems that it is ethically required for them to provide medical care. In other words, you will not be placed into a Vulcan medbed unless a spaceship lands on your leg. You are still on your own when it comes to managing your diabetes or whatever else it is that ails you. Think for a minute. If human elites had unlimited access to medbed technology, then why would Joe Biden have untreated dementia and why would Trump have documented issues with his circulation? Those men would be as healthy and vigorous as men half their age and they would not be suffering from the ravages of time in such an obvious and painful manner. The second thing that we need to consider is that new medical technologies, whether they are developed on Earth or elsewhere, are only introduced when powerful members of the elite have found a way to make a profit off of them. If Trump somehow had the capacity to distribute medbeds, he would not do so until he figured out a means of making sure that he was able to derive a massive profit from it. This would create a titanic struggle over turf, as a number of powerful interests would be cut out. Doctors, for a starter, would experience an immediate loss of status and relevance. While doctors are still useful for interpreting data and coming up with care plans beyond the visit, they would be forced to take a pay cut since it would be the machine doing all of the hard work. Insurance companies would also take a hit. One of Trump's friends in the tech sector would most likely be issued a government monopoly and sell them to local hospitals. The billionaire who got the deal would become incredibly powerful. At one point, Musk would have been a shoo-in for the role, as he was close to Trump for a time. Now, it is unclear who would get the nod. Tim Cook of Apple, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, or one of his two older sons would be the leading candidates, with Ivanka and Barron being dark horse contenders. Anyone who knows Trump also realizes that he would never allow the device to come to light unless he could claim that the medbed was either his idea or that it was his hard-nosed negotiating which brought it to the public. A side consideration is whether the president would impose a tariff on the new technology. After all, there is no way to manufacture a medbed anywhere on Earth given the current state of our industry. Making medbeds in the United States with American workers would require either a considerable expansion of the secret space program or a full disclosure on aliens by the U.S. government with the authorization of the Federation. The third and final factor that you need to understand is that Trump has a very poor relationship with the Federation. Previous U.S. presidents have all made some limited degree of progress with the Vulcans and Andorians, but Trump has not made a positive impression on our intergalactic neighbors. Even if we had a president who was well liked by the Federation, medbeds for human civilians are a big ask. Even on worlds dominated by the Vulcans and Andorians, the two most advanced races, medbeds are rare and in high demand. Lower caste Vulcans often have to wait months to get into a medbed for half an hour, when they need a few hours and the tube and time is of the essence. When we do eventually get medbed technology, it will probably be when the Vulcans and Andorians have moved on to 4th-generation models. They are currently producing 2nd-generation models, and most facilities still have the older 1st-generation models. My guess is that old but still functional 1st-generation medbeds will be sent to Earth around the time that 4th-generation machines are replacing 3rd-generation at high-priority centers, such as Vulcan religious sanctuaries and Starfleet vessels. For reference, the cycle between generations on industrial equipment manufactured by the Andorians and designed by the Vulcans is typically 20 to 25 standard years. Finally, I would like to temper expectations about what a medbed can and cannot do. There is a limit to what medicine can do. With medbed use, the elite of Vulcan have seen a rise in their average lifespan from 120 years to 210. Human physiology is more susceptible to disease, but more easily repaired. With regular visits to a 1st-generation medbed, a generally healthy human could perhaps live to be 150 and still be spry until about 125. Thus, while it would be a game changer, it will not fundamentally change the reality that we grow old and eventually die, according to God's will. If you found what I had to say interesting or helpful, please leave me a like and subscribe to this channel. Now that I have left the Men in Black, I am dedicating my life to writing revelatory books on the history of MIB, Athelney, and the bullqueer theory of history. Leave any questions you want me to address in the comments below. Until next time, I am H.J. Armstrong, citizen, scholar, saint.